So it's come to my attention that after the release of the last episode of the MTCN Talks that there are a few things I need to address, namely why exactly I choose to talk about the things I talk about. But I want to talk about first about what this video series is not. This video series, for example, is not a cry for help. It is not a demand for attention, and it is not any sort of request for an intervention. There are three main reasons why I make these videos. Reason number one, the expression of ideas. Too often in life I feel like there are things I want to talk about with people, but just find myself unable to actually do so. Mainly because either A, they don't really understand what I'm trying to say, and when I try to say it, they often just stare back at me with blank looks, or B, I just don't feel comfortable talking about it for one reason or another. Maybe I'm not as close to them as I'd like, or maybe I just don't feel comfortable talking about it to anyone. I feel like expressing these thoughts through video format at least give me the option, or at least the ability, to express these thoughts, feelings, and ideas in a way that might be understood by some people. Reason number two, overcoming the fear of being vulnerable. I talked about this a bit in my very first episode of MTCN Talks, but I feel like I need to emphasize it again here. I believe strongly that allowing yourself to be vulnerable opens up many more doors for you than trying to protect yourself from being hurt by building walls around yourself. There's a freedom in it. There's so many things we're afraid to talk about because we're afraid of being judged or rejected for having these thoughts or these feelings. But even then, I feel like I have some emotions or feelings or thoughts or ideas that are just difficult for me to find the words for, and I feel like by taking the time to find the words for it and just finding a way to just express them in some way, then they lose their power over me, and suddenly it's not a big deal anymore, and I can talk about it openly. There's also something about allowing yourself to be vulnerable that opens up a dialogue with other people, and I feel like the conversations that go in that route are the more interesting ones, more important ones. Granted, on a YouTube format that's different than, say, a person-to-person conversation, but the idea still applies in the fact that when you share something that makes you vulnerable, leaves you open to being hurt, then that encourages other people to do the same. And suddenly it's like it's okay to talk about these things, and the social barriers start kind of crashing down. So it's through these videos and it's through this expression that I try to find the will to overcome my own fear of being vulnerable, and at the same time allow other people who might need it the opportunity to do so as well. Which leads me to the third reason why I make these videos. Reason number three, which is to try to help people who are going through something similar. I think one of the universal feelings in the world is whatever our problem is, that it brings with it a pain only we can know, that only we can understand, and there's something very isolating about that sensation, if that makes any sense. So we often try to find someone who's maybe gone through that experience and seen the other side, or is going through it at the same time. And it's like it's that need to feel like our suffering is not just our own, that there's someone else who knows what that pain feels like, and through finding someone like that, suddenly there's a comfort in it, that while it doesn't remove the problem, it at least removes the loneliness of it, and that can be incredibly helpful to getting through those particular problems. So I express some stuff that I've dealt with or am currently dealing with for the people out there who may need to know that there's someone out there who knows what that feels like, who knows what that pain feels like. So just to show them that A, they're not alone, and B, that they can find hope in the fact that someone can survive this particular ordeal and they can see the other side and they can become a better person for it. That they can find the hope and the comfort to just kind of keep going, and those two things are so important when it comes to eventually dealing with problems. And I can use a whole video to talk about that alone, but for the sake of getting through this, we'll move on. My point is that the core purpose of this series is to help people in one of the few ways that I know how, through relation to my own experiences. There are people out there who are much better at this than I am, and much smarter about it too, but I feel like there is still a small part that I can play in trying to help people with this, and I want to try to play that part, if nothing else. I think I can do that, and I want to try. So that's what I'm doing. So those are the main reasons why I make these videos. And I hope they clarify a few misunderstandings that I've kind of heard about this particular series, and prevent more from coming up, I guess. And this part is more of a special message. And this part is more of a special message for those people who are watching this, who have sent me some very kind messages of support. I want to emphasize that I am deeply appreciative of those who've gone above and beyond to try kind of like get my attention and reach out. But, and I apologize if this seems rude, that's not what these videos are about. I'm not looking for a shoulder to cry on, and I'm not looking for someone to come and save me. That's something only I can do. And if I cause anyone worry, know that it is not my intention. I've just gone in great lengths about what my intention actually is, so hopefully we won't have that confusion again. So please, don't worry. I'm okay. I'm human. I struggle like anyone else. I just choose to express it more than most people do. But I struggle. I get through it, one way or another. So that's all I really wanted to talk about today, so make sure to tune in for the next episode of MTCN Talks, and I'll go right back to talking about the more juicy stuff. So I hope this clarified a few points or provides some insight in what my goals are here for this series, and I hope that will help things going forward into the future. So with all that being said, I'll see you all in my next episode on whatever video series that might be.